Futures trading involves a substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors. Therefore, carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, February 18th. I'm Phil Streible, Chief Market Strategist at Blue Lion Futures. So let's get you set up for the trading day ahead, starting with the precious metals. You do have gold advancing back over $4,900 an ounce, getting as high as $49.6220. The low of the overnight session here is $48.68.5, and futures are trading right around $49.33 as of this recording. So futures had dropped about 3% over the past two trading sessions, but have regained about 0.5%. Investors are really looking from some of the comments here from Fed officials on clues as far as U.S. policy, and as well as the minutes from the bank's meeting here in January. So you look at April gold here, the key levels to watch are really that 5,000 mark and pocket resistance up at 51.22 on up to 51.50. The key level of support, or the key level that I'm watching, is really this flip line right around this 49.34. Futures were holding that level of support on a closing basis and then dropped below it before now looking to recapture that level. Your key level of support below this 49.31 is closer to 4,700 down to 4,680. That's where you get the January consolidation highs. You look at the 10-day average true range dropping at $208, and gold volatility sitting at about 33.24, still in a choppier area of volatility. You want to see volatility get back down closer to 30 and below that, and then you should see some more normalized trading in the gold market. You look at the March silver up about $2 as this recording, up 2.75% at 75.50 last, so up $2. The low of the overnight session was 72.25. The high of the overnight session was 76.28. We are seeing green on the screen across the board in all the metals markets, everything from copper, aluminum, platinum, palladium, all pushing their way higher. Your next area of resistance here on the silver market, 79.26. That's going to be your Friday the 13th highs, and then 82.67, which was a double top before the breakout to the all-time highs. The next area of support really still at that 70.67 level, and the 10-day average true range dropping to about $9.49 an ounce. You look at silver volatility, still quite high at 72.91. So you look at the ETF flows here on the precious metals, and this is where you can really see how light the volume is. The ETFs were selling gold, silver, platinum, and palladium in the previous trading session, with the gold ETF flows here essentially unchanged, just dropping about 49,000 troy ounces of gold. So total gold held by ETFs this year is sitting up 1.2% at 100.1 million ounces, and gold's up about 13% coming into this recording after falling about 2.3% in the previous trading session. You look at the silver ETF flows, see they only cut about 7,000 troy ounces silver, not enough really to even push the needle. So year to date, total ETFs declined 3.1%. It's unable to eclipse the 2025 level. It's the third straight day of declines. Palladium holdings also dropped about 11,000 troy ounces for the sixth straight day. You got the gold-silver ratio sitting at about 65-1. And then you look at stock futures, they are higher across the board. Looking at the earnings front out of the 379 S&P 500 companies that have reported so far, 75% have managed to beat analyst forecasts, 20% have missed. Now, we are going to have some economic data today and a few things to pay attention to. That's durable goods, followed by industrial production and capacity utilization. We will have the FOMC minutes here from the previous meeting right around 1 p.m. Central Time, and then Fed's Michelle Bowman is going to speak at noon. Looking at the interest rate cut expectations, so no real movement here from yesterday to today, sitting at about 7.9%. That's on that March meeting. You go out to April, it's 26.9%, and June is 65.8%. You look at the dollar index, and this was really the real reason here why we saw futures sell off across the board in most of these markets, because there's a strong inverse correlation between the dollar, the gold market, the S&P 500, and a lot of different key commodities out there. So the dollar index edging a bit higher, 97.16, up about 9 ticks here. The key level I'm watching on there is 97.87, because that's where that big lower high came in on the markets. If the market all of a sudden reverse and get above that level, then it may change some of the dynamics, and you might have that next big push down on the gold market. You look at the euro currency sitting at 118.49. That's down 14 ticks. The Swiss franc sitting just above that 130 level. And then WTI crude oil futures. A lot of the traders that I'm watching across the board have shifted from some of their trading here, some of their active trading in a lot of these metals markets and stock indices over to the oil market. Oil's been in a bit of a chop zone here, coming closer to the support levels before bouncing up. So it's up $1.40 right now. It's 63.67 on that April contract. You look at 10-year Treasury yields, well, they got down to about 4.03%. So 10-year futures got up to 113 before sliding just a bit here, and we're seeing 10-year yields kind of bounce back just a touch. You look at VIX futures just below that 20 level, and as it gets over the 20 and we push up to 21 and 22, you see quite a bit of liquidation go on in the S&P 500, the equity markets, and then as we dip back below 20, that's where you really see that rip going up. So if I was going to intraday trade the S&P 500 or some of these indices, I would have the VIX intraday on one chart next to the S&P 500 on another to look and see if I got any key levels of direction or the rate of change that the VIX is coming down or going up in order to adjust my strategy. You look at the S&P gamma exposure, still remains negative, and Bitcoin just sitting there stagnant at about 67,500, waiting for a catalyst. Its correlation has been positive to the dollar index, but it really, and we've seen in times recently where the dollar's gone down, the Bitcoin market has not even moved. We've seen the dollar go up and Bitcoin hasn't moved. So Bitcoin is really appears to be a dead asset, and those traders have gone to other markets instead. You look at European stocks, they rose, and Asian stocks, they did advance, and that's part of the reason why I think we're seeing a recovery in copper, silver, the equity markets here, is because of the fact it was led by a rebound in Japanese shares here, as many of the markets in the region are shut for that New Year, that Lunar New Year holiday. So the MSCI Asia Pacific Index rose about 0.5%, snapping a 3-day losing streak. So we'll most likely be trading that May silver on the 100-ounce contract over the next day or two. They'll open that up, and a lot of traders are out there getting involved with that 100-ounce silver futures here because of the scalability, looking for another potential move on any kind of breakout back to the upside over some of these key levels like the 82.67, the $85 level, $86 for another potential run up. Will it take Asia coming back online in order to push it? Perhaps it's possible here, but futures do look a lot more positive here as we set up this session here today. So we'll see what happens here. If you guys got any questions, you'll have to open up an account with us. Send an email to info@bluelionfutures.com. Remember, futures and option trading does involve risk of loss. May not be suitable to all investors. Good luck. Good trading.
Futures trading involves a substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors. Therefore, carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition.